Hello, my name is Audrey Niksic. I am the host of this Q&A. Welcome to week 3 of Music Calgary's SoundOff Summit Digital Strategies, taking place online from Okinsis in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. Before we begin, it's important to acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda Nations, the Métis Nation Region 3, and all people who make their home in the Treaty 7 region. For future events, make sure to also follow Music Calgary on socials, and you can sign up as a member on the website for more programming updates. I am joined today with Sébastien Charest. Thank you so much for joining. How's your morning going?
Good. Sunshine is back in Montreal, so I'm happy. Finally, no more rain.
It's always funny how much a difference some sunshine can make in your mood and stuff too. So that's great to hear.
Especially during a pandemic.
Yeah, that's true. I'm stuck in a basement suite here today, but I got my nice lamp radiating some energy onto me here. Why don't we just get started by introducing yourself and I guess kind of your journey thus far in the music community and how you've got to the place you are now as a copyright manager.
Yeah, so my name is Sébastien Charest. I'm working from Montreal. I've been in the music industry in Montreal since now 16 years now. So I start first by working to Music Plus, so the Much Music French version back in the days when they were video broadcasts on TV. So I worked there on the TV news show. After that, I worked during 8 years at the GAMIC, the Quebec Independent Music Award, as the let's say the rule and regulation coordinator and the census coordinator. So that helped me a lot to get notes from the music industry in Quebec, because both the panel, the people on the jury who have to vote for the album and all the artists and label who have to submit for the award show have to contact me. So even if I was not known at the beginning, everybody had my email and have to contact me if they want to be part of the award. So I worked there during 8 years. After that, I worked during 7.5 years at SPAC. That's, let's say, Société professionnelle des auteurs et compositeurs du Québec. So it's the French version of both the SAC and the SCGC, the Songwriting Association of Canada, and the Screen Composer Guild of Canada. So I worked there as the member services. So I was the one who everybody called to understand what is SOCAN, what can I do, how much should I be paid when my music is used in a TV show. And after that, I decided to work on my own as a right manager. So I'm doing the same thing as people was calling me when I was at SPAC, but instead of just saying it, I'm doing what I say. So I help my artists to register with Right Society, making sure that they are paid when their songs are broadcasted on TV and radio, and sometimes make just some cleanup to make sure that the repertoire has been updated.
That sounds amazing, and like we could all probably use your help a little bit. So I'm glad we're here for the Q&A today. If maybe first, for some people that maybe are unfamiliar with kind of licensing organizations here, could you maybe provide a brief overview of some of the, I guess, what you consider most essential licensing, royalty, and rights organizations in Canada for independent artists?
Yeah, so I can say first that what is a right society? So a right society is an organization between a shareholder and a user. So obviously radio don't want to deal with every songwriters and publisher every time they play a song. So that's why the copyright law of Canada authorize the creation of right society. So instead the radio pay a certain amount of money, send the money and the data to a right society, and after that, that's the job of that right society to pay everybody, and all the users will all pay the same right society. So instead of creating a right society for each use, you have a global right society. So in Canada, we recognize rights for the songwriters, the performer, even if it's vocal or musician, and for the master owner. So depending on which act you have, depending on the project, you registered with some right society. So for all songwriters or publishers, there's one that you probably already know, which is SOCAN. So SOCAN collect royalty for songwriters and publisher every time there's a user that use music for broadcasting. So which means if your song play on radio, play on TV, a live performance, a streaming, so these users pay a license to SOCAN, send their data, with what I mean by data is which are the songs that they were played the last month. And that's SOCAN job to take the money, take the data, and try to find who are the songwriters and the publisher for each song that were played. For the songwriters, they also what we call mechanical rights. So the fact that we reproduce a work on something. Back in the days, there were CDs. I don't know if you were from that era of CD and vinyl. So a song was reproduced on a record. If not, it's a blank CD. So there are right society that, let's say, collect the money from the user, which is the record label, to pay the songwriters and the publisher. Same thing as download. So a download is a song reproduced on your computer. So every time you buy a song on iTunes, there's money that goes to the songwriters, but iTunes don't talk directly to the songwriters. So they send the royalty to a right society, and that's that job of that right society to pay everybody. So in Canada, there are two now who are coordinate or collecting royalty for the mechanical rights. They are CMRA. I know you have a panel with them earlier this week. And now there's a new department in SOCAN called SOCAN RR that also collecting royalty for the mechanical right. So you have to select one of them to know who do you mandate to collecting these those reproduction mechanical rights. Sorry. So that are the right society to register as a songwriter. As a performer, vocal or an instrument, there are 4 in Canada. So they are MROC, Actra Rax, there's Artisti, and there's also Resound. So they're all doing the same thing, which is collecting royalty from radio, commercial radio, CBC, or satellite radio, and they pay the performers on the track. So first of all, it has to be a recorded track. It's not a live performance on radio. So when your performance is fixed on a recording, you get, let's say, extra money every time the track is played on the radio. So you register with one of the 4, you tell them that you play on that recording, and when they find any radio spin from that track, you're getting paid. And if you are the master owner of that track, there's also 2 organizations that you can be a member in Canada. There's Connect and there's SOPROC. So as the same thing, you have to sign with only one of them to collect your money. If you register with both of them, you're not going to be paid twice. You're just going to be paid nothing, but because there's going to be an overlapping claim, as we call. Both of the organization will claim for the same track, so you're not going to be paid twice. You're going to be paid nothing. So you have to choose which one you want to be registered with. and the same thing, they're gonna receive the data from the radio station. If they find any track from you, they're gonna pay you. So if you are a self-producing artist, or an artist who's doing everything for the same radio spin, you're gonna be paid by SOCAN, CMRRA or SOCAN RR, MROC, Actrorax, Artisty or Resound, and Connect or Soproc, depending on which one you choose and depending on your act. But all of these, and I have to say that, first of all, the Right Society makes some lobby to recognize the radio, that a radio need music on their air to attract people listening to their radio. If not, there's going to be talk radio. So if they decide to put music, there's a value of it, even if they don't produce the album, they didn't pay for the album, but there's a value of having music on the radio. So that's why they have to pay license, as the same thing that a hairdressing salon without music, or let's say a clothing store without the music, they realize that depending on the music they will put in the store, people will be attracted to that store. So there's a value of your talent of creating music, so that talent had to be paid. So that's why there are licenses that they are paid by the user for the use of your talent. So I have to say that first. You got the talent, Music Calgary, or members of Music Calgary, and it has to be recognized. So that's why the Right Society are working to get license from the user, get better license for the user, to make sure that when your work has been used, it be you are paid for that use.
Right. That's a great point, I think, to start us off too today, because when you think about it, if you go to a store, something that has no music playing, it was almost weird feeling and just like totally ruins the mood. Like, I think it is important to recognize that even if you are just streaming music for free as like a business owner or something, you do have the responsibility to support artists financially, because they made that for you, right? Music is providing a service. As much as it is fun and creative, it is still providing a tone and like an emotional aspect to people's lives. So that's a great point. We do have a listener question here, and I do want to say to the audience members watching, if you do have a live question here for Sébastien, you can put it into the chat or into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. So we do have one listener who was just wondering about the average royalty rate and length of royalties.
Okay. It's always changing, I have to say first, because it's always, for example, for radio station, it depends on how much revenue they make from ads during the last month, and they pay a percentage of the royalty they did in the last month. So that's why, for example, even if the radio played the same amount of music during the pandemic, the value of a spin will be lower when we're going to be paid by SOCAN, because they sell less revenue during that pandemic. And I'm talking about the pandemic like it's over. No. So it still be lower for the next few months. I hope not for the next few years, just because of the pandemic. So right now, let's talk about SOCAN commercial radio. So what we call BDS radio. So mostly commercial radio from bigger town in Canada. So right now there's 800 radio stations, and 300 of them are considered commercial radio. So for these commercial radio, right now, one spin is $1. And for commercial radio, every spin, airplay, should I say, are paid. So if you are being played every week, 4 times a week during a month, so it's going to be 16 times, so $16 for each radio station. For CBC, right now, I'm still with SoCan. It's like $26 per spin, but we know that but it's on national radio, so it's $26, but it's for a spin from St. John to Victoria, including Calgary. And yeah, see, and we know that on CBC radio 1, 2, or 3, there's a lot of not the same song. It's not always "Losing My Religion" by REM. So yeah, it's same a lot compared to commercial radio, but we know that commercial radio, let's say the Bear FM, maybe have many radio stations in every country. They maybe play all the same track at the same time, but they are considered as individual radio. So you're going to be paid $1 per spin per radio, even if it's a global station. And for the non-commercial radio, so the 500 other station, including university radio and college radio, I think right now it's around $5 per spin. But not every play are paid. So because these radio station doesn't have a lot of ad revenue, SoCan asks them for a certain amount of days of programming, and the song played on that specific days are be the one who gonna be used for the payment. So you might, let's say, census day, you're not going to be paid for that radio. And I have to say that each radio station have their own census. Everything is going to be put in the same potluck. And after that, they say, okay, here are the songs that will be used for the payment in, let's say, in August 15. So, and for this song, each song gonna be paid $5. So that is the rate for SoCan. After that, when we go to performing neighborhood rights, usually both would take Connect and, let's say, MRock. Both of them together represent usually 80% of SoCan rates. So if we say that commercial radio paid $1, we say that Connect, the same spin, will be paid 40%. So 40 cents to Connect and 40 cents to MRock. And obviously, the amount of money is paid to the entire key. After that, if you are a songwriter and you are 50-50 with your publisher, that $1 going to be split 50 cents and 50 cents. But usually it's commercial radio, $1, 40-40 to MRock and Connect. And probably the same thing from CBC radio. There's no wrong. I would have said that there's no license for neighborhood rights for Connect and MRock. There's still a license, but it's like $100 for the entire year. So there's a license paid, but there's no census made to distribute that money, because coordinating that license will be higher than just paying them. So right now, They're collecting the money, but there's no distribution for Connect and MROC. There was a long sentence. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were expecting a short answer. I'm not able to resume really shortly, but here are the details regarding the rates when there's a song played on radio.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. And I guess going off of that too, so you're saying with certain, if they're more of like an international or national radio station with multiple stations, you'll get paid at each time. So in that case, does it make sense for independent artists to sign up with rights organizations in specific territories or sign more globally with a Canadian CMO?
Compared to, okay, so in Canada, there's no difference between all the other competitor, let's say, in Canada, because they all receive the same data. So for example, if you play a lot in the east of the country, you don't need to register with a rights society that will be nearer Nova Scotia than one nearer than Vancouver. They all receive the same data, so there's no problem. Usually when you register with the rights society, it's for a worldwide mandate. So they're gonna collect your royalty here, and after that, they're gonna talk to the same rights society as them in other country to collect your royalty. So the advantage of it is you only registered at one place, you only update your repertoire at one place, and after that, that's the rights society to make sure that they collect your royalty internationally. And depending on the rights society, the administrative fee could change depending on. But some people have started to say, okay, the revenue from United States or from France, it's really important. I want to have it without the administrative fee and quicker, because if you are registered directly in a rights society in the US or in France, you are considered as a local. So you're going to be paid at the same time as all the people in that country, instead of, for example, Sound Exchange in the United States, sending the money to Canada, and after that, your rights society in Canada will take that data and the money and give it to you. So some people, for be paid quicker and avoid the administrative fee, will go directly to that country. So if you're doing it, first of all, you have to inform your rights society in Canada, because you're probably a worldwide member, saying that you want to opt out some country. Because if you're registered directly in that country, you maybe, as I said, maybe want to be paid faster, but there might be an overlapping claim, because your rights society in Canada would still claim your repertoire in the US. So instead of being paid quicker, you're not going to be paid. So first of all, you have to inform, and sometimes some rights society will say, okay, cool, it's going to apply now, or it's going to apply starting January 1st of next year. Or some other rights society will say, your contract is for 5 years, so we're going to apply it, but at the end of your 5-year term with us. So you have to check, when did you register? How long is the term to your rights society? And how much time do you need them to inform in advance that you want to opt out the territory? So usually some rights society will say, we need to know it 90 days before the end of your term. So you have to check out. And sometimes you will find it square, but you have to understand that the rights society makes some money by receiving your royalty. So they cannot let everybody lending out every time they start doing some money. So it's a contract, an official contract, so you have to respect it. So make sure first that you opt out correctly the territory you want to your rights society. So after that, you registered in that country, and you have to think that in the future, every time you're going to release a new song, you will have to register both. It's no longer only to MRock. You have to MRock and Sound Exchange, or SOCAN and SACEM every time. Even if you're saying, okay, that song, I just released it in Canada, there's not going to be any international broadcast. You don't know that, especially with all the digital stuff. Say, if you put it on Spotify, even if you're going to market it in Canada, the song is on Spotify worldwide. So there might be any streaming everywhere in the world. So if you're not with a right society for the world, you have to register it twice, or as many as right society you have. So you have to take care about that. And the second thing is that by being registered in a foreign right society, you will receive that money in the money of that country. So you have to think about that. You have to think that there's maybe some withhold for taxes depending on some country, and sometimes Canada has a deal with this country to not have a withhold on your tax, but some other country doesn't have it. In compared to if you're worldwide with a right society, even if they are international royalty, you will always receive it as Canadian money. So you will, all the job for the taxes, they're going to be taken care of by your right society in Canada in name of all of the member. If you're dealing directly with Sound Exchange, it's you alone with the US taxes. So sometimes it's worth it, sometimes not. I will always suggest that it depends on the amount of money you're, for example, already receive it in your international royalty from your right society. And when you think it's worth it, yes, you can think about opting out, but you're going to have more job to do. So you have to worth it, even if you're avoiding the administrative fee. Again, a really long answer for a short question.
It does sound like there's lots to consider and kind of weighing your options as a musician to see what's right for you. So I think that's really helpful to consider. And I guess another layer of it that can get complicated sometimes when you're dealing with a record label, do you think there's a typical or kind of fair deal that you can make with your label for royalty cuts for your share of the royalty versus the label's share of that income that you're making?
Interesting. I see two situations regarding, for example, the deal with an artist with their record label. Even if the label produced the album, or if it's a license. Say, I produce the album, but I make a deal with a label who just gonna market it. So for everything from the streaming, so the label work as a spokesperson with the distributor and the platform. So the label receive let's say the record share and the artist share, and that's the label job to give the artist share directly because it works as a spokesperson. But everything from the radio station, as I mentioned, the label is paid by Connect, and the artists are paid by MRock or Actrorax. So regarding the statement, and I think that most of the label will say, let's say I put $500 on expense. All the revenue that will come to me, I'm going to recoup myself first. And after that, I'm going to share everything with you. Some label would say that the revenue from the Right Society, for him from Connect, will not be put in the statement because it will say, I won't put my money from Connect because you're already collecting your share directly from MROC. So I'm only going to share with you my revenue from the distributor, and only that money will be used as a recoup for my expenses. And some label will say, even if the artist is already being paid by MROC, my money from Connect will be used for the recoup with the money from the distributor before I'm going to share my money with the artist. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's no good or not good. You just have to make sure that what the artists think is the same as the label thought, and making sure that it was clearly written in the contract. So there's no surprise after that.
Great. And so thinking in terms of like your role as a copyright manager, if people listening are kind of getting overwhelmed with the thought of all of it and need a little bit of help, is there, I guess in your work in particular, do you work with a lot more independent artists who need just some help maximizing their income, or do you work a lot more closely with labels or bigger organizations?
I'm working more with independent artists, simply because in the Montreal music scene, there was already help for the label, and also I'm working with the hour rate and not a percent rate on the royalty earned. So I realized that for a company that have a big repertoire, I'm not worth it, because with the hour rate, you cannot hire me if you release an album every 2 months and registered with everything. I would suggest you to learn it by yourself, or maybe working with someone who's gonna do it with a fee on the royalty. So that's why I work more with the independent artists, and especially that my way of thinking, it's more like, I'm gonna register you everywhere, and I'm gonna register your new album, and after that you call me back for 2 reasons. You got a problem, you got a new single. But the rest of the time, if the job was done correctly, you're gonna be paid, and I don't need to open the sink every month or every 3 months to, oh, there's still water. I know you can do it by yourself. So call me when you want more water, so a new single, or if you realize that you're not still paid for that track. So it's more my philosophy. So that's why I'm working more with independent artists. Sometimes I'm working with manager, because the artists don't want to do it. So it's on the manager to-do list. So the manager called me saying that, hey, let's do it for my artist, because I don't have time to do it. And also for small label, sometimes I take some, because, for example, the job will only be to go with Connect, because if they are only a record label, not a label with a managing branch and publishing branch, it could be worth it, because I only submit to Connect, the job is done, or Connect or Sound Exchange, depending on if they decide to opt out United States. Same thing as for the publishing. I register the track to SOCAN RR and CMRA, and after that, I simply just contact them when I realize that, okay, there's a new album coming out, or what are the deal with the artist, and I just register it and it's good. So you don't need me every time. You just make sure that you have a secretary that are going to register to the Right Society. And it could be seen as a good investment too, if I make some promotion about me, saying that you hire me or you hire a right administrator to make you more money. So my job and my colleague are there to help you, making sure that the revenue existing in the music industry goes to the right pocket, and all the royalty go to your pocket. So we cost something, but we should bring you more money than what we cost. We hope.
That's great. And I'd like to just throw in a little shout out for your video that you did with Music Calgary earlier this week. If audience members haven't had a chance to look at that yet, that's also a great starting point for trying to maximize your royalties, especially through SOCAN as well. So we'll put that in the link in the chat here too for anyone that's interested. So you did mention a little bit earlier with radio play, the costs going down a little bit because of the pandemic. So I was also wondering how that affects performance rights and if there's been any like adaptations to include more live streams and pre-recorded concerts into collecting those royalties, since there aren't any live performances technically.
Yeah, totally. So I know that SOCAN in the last year, they started a new program called Encore, which was they took the money from Facebook and decided to give it to any live performances on Facebook and Instagram. So your job as a publisher of a self-published artist was to prove to SOCAN that you did a performance live, that there were at least 100 people online during your performance, and that your performance was at least 30 minutes. And there were royalty, so they distributed royalty for that. So that program, it's now over. There's now a new program, and mostly a new permanent program. So now any live performances will be paid. Not only Facebook or Instagram, but YouTube or any live performances. The only thing is that if I just want to make sure that I won't make any mistakes. So if your performance, it's live, really a live performance, not a pre-recorded or a live to play, but a really live performances, it will be paid even if your performance is free. So which be mostly Facebook Live or YouTube Live. So you just submit the same proof as before to SOCAN and they're going to pay you. If you're doing something online and it's a pre-recorded performances, it need a ticket fee to be paid. To be paid by SOCAN. So that's the only thing that changed in the last few weeks, but now it's something more permanent. But yeah, so right now, so I guess that the payment, there's going to be a SOCAN payment in 2 weeks on May 15. That should be, let's say but the entire 3 months during a pandemic. So we should start seeing lower payment from the Right Society, if from Connect and MROC, that's gonna be their big payment of 2020 in next July. So even if you play as much in terms of spin compared to last year, you're gonna be paid less, and people saying that royalty should be 20% less compared to the other years. But people stream more than ever. So your royalty from the streaming, from the DSP, the digital service provider, should be higher, but not as much as the downside from the radio. We kind of lost your wood behind you.
Yeah, it's slowly disappearing. Hey, I kind of look like a floating head a little bit.
There's still wood.
Head.
Okay, which is weird that I was talking to you. Oh,
I haven't entered into a void or anything. Well, that's great information here. And just to confirm with you,
something.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we talked earlier about the spin for a radio airplay. And people also always ask, how much does a stream pay?
Right.
And there's always the answer, oh, we don't know. And it's true that we don't know. Here's the reason. Because the pay per stream change every month, depending on the country, how much stream for your track, your specific track, and how much stream for the how many stream for all the song during a month, and how much subscription. So let's say, for example, in March, my song was streamed, let's say, 10,000 times on Spotify. And in April, same thing, 10,000 times. But in March, Drake released an album at the same time as me. But nothing, let's say more that Drake released it in April. So in March, I was good. So I still have 10,000 stream, but the amount of stream on Spotify was so much bigger in April because Drake and Ed Sheeran and The Weeknd decide to release a track. So even if it's still 10,000 stream for me, the value of that 10,000 stream on all the stream on the platform that month gonna be less. So I'm gonna be paid less by my distributor for that month and also from SoCal. Same thing that if I was listening or if during these 2 months I was listening 10,000 times, and let's say that all these streams are from Canada, maybe in March, a lot of people decide to register with Spotify and decide, and the month after in April, they kept their subscription, but they listen to nothing. So there's more money to Spotify, but the amount of music listening to Spotify didn't grow up. So the value per stream gonna be higher in April because they get more money without having more people. And everything is reset every month. So that's why when you're watching your statement for the distributor, you have all this information because every time a country change, the amount of revenue in terms of subscription change. Is it a paid subscription or based on ad revenue? So all of that changed. So that's why everything changed. And the deal with Spotify will not be the same with Amazon, Deezer. And so that's why it's tough to say how much you're going to be paid per stream. At least you're paid. So they recognize that there's value in your music. So you're still fighting to be paid more for your music. And that's why Right Society are there to represent you as a collective, saying that your DSP will be on. There will be no subscriber if it's just an empty DSP. So there's fight to make your music with value. I'm good. I'm patriotic this morning.
No, it's great. We love that energy. And I guess, like, speaking on that, that was a really good segue to what I was going to ask too. So all the complicated like fluctuations of streaming platforms and their revenue to you as an artist, is that also in part why there aren't neighboring rights tariffs on Spotify and other streaming platforms, or is that for a different reason?
No, the reason why is that the fact that, I will start with radio. The fact that you're collecting neighborhood rights on radio is that even if the album is no longer available to buy it, if the radio still have the CD in his library, he can still play it. So that's why the money goes to the Rights Society, and the Rights Society will pay the right shareholder. But in terms of Spotify, I cannot decide by myself to put an album that I like, subscribe with a distributor, and put it on Spotify, because it comes from the label who decide to, I want to market that album. I still have the right. I still have a budget. Let's compare to before when there were physical CDs. If a label saying that it's gonna cost more to print some CDs and I don't have any extra money, or I'm in a fight with the artist and I don't want to share the money with that artist, I will stop to market that album, so the album will be no longer available in stores, but it can still play on radio. Everybody will be paid independently. So that's why on Spotify, the music on Spotify, it's the consequence of a label authorizing Spotify to market that music. That's why the money do the opposite way of the music. You send it to the distributor to the platform. There's a stream or a download, the money go to the distributor, go to the label. So that's why the money, there's no neighborhood rights, because it's considered as a direct action of the marketing of the art of the label. I know that Artisty, not MRock, Actrorex, and Resound, but Artisty is working now on a deal with Adisc, which say that Adisc is as CIMA in the French Canadian, saying that they make a deal with Adisc, saying that whatever your artist contract says, if you can mandate Artisty to be paid on stream 1 as a featured artist and as a non-featured artist. So the record label gonna receive the money from the distributor, but you're not gonna be paid after the recoup. You're gonna be paid from stream 1. So right now they are collecting the agreement from their member. They are dealing with the organization to make a deal, but it's not yet the case. So that will be if that happens, that will be the first time that artists going to be paid by Rights Society from stream 1, but the money will not come from the DSP. It will still go from the distributor and the record label, but after that, you're going to be paid on stream 1. Same thing as podcast. So right now, Spotify podcast or any podcast are paid by SoCan for the songwriter, but for the record label and the performers, there's no money from the Rights Society, because it's considered as a direct authorization from the record label. So it's more like you authorize the sync of your music in your podcast, and that money you receive it upfront. Probably gonna be the only money you're gonna receive from that podcast broadcasting right now.
Thank you for that information. That's really helpful to a lot of listeners, I believe. I just want to throw out to the floor, anyone watching, we do have about 10 minutes left. If you have any burning questions to submit to Sébastien, please put them in the Q&A box or in the chat, and we can try to touch on those.
Is there any headache? I know I talk a lot and I'm really passionate about Rights Society, but I know that sometimes it could be a lot of things depending on where you're in the industry. So if there's something not clear, I'm there. So feel free to ask it.
I think it's been a great conversation so far. I've always, like, for one, as a musician, always hear people joking about, oh, I'm going to get my SoCan check and it's going to be 10 cents, and there's a lot of people that feel very, not negatively, but maybe that they should be getting more. And obviously everyone should be getting more, but I really like the way that you're kind of shaping it as like they are acknowledging the importance of getting paid and the fluctuations and things. I never realized it was so complex before. So it's really putting things into perspective for me, at least, because I know a lot of at least independent Calgarian musicians too as well, who maybe don't get a lot of plays on the radio, still always kind of make a joke about, yeah, the 10-cent paycheck. But I do think it's still important to register and maximize, like you're saying, so you can get the most out of it. So I guess over the next few minutes too, do you have any advice for musicians who kind of need to choose between rights organizations that cover the same thing, and like what's the best way to kind of weigh your options when it comes to registering for an organization?
I like them all. What I could say, you can shop them. Usually the rate for Canadian airplay are the same between everybody. For example, for Artisty, MRock, and Actrorax, they all take 50% for Canadian rates, Canadian airplay. So when they can be interesting, it's on the international date, international deal. So you have to check, okay, I know I play a lot in maybe in the Latin community or in Europe or in United States. So you can check which are the country they have a deal with, and they have to inform you the percent they're gonna take. So you can say, okay, it's more advantage there than the other places. So you can think about that. Maybe I will say that I will a little bit turn around your question, saying that I would say for performers' rights, so MRock, Artisty, Actrorax, right now the money is still available until 2001, since 2001, for any radio airplay. So you can't go back until 2001, but they're gonna close from 2001 to 2013, August 1st. So if you have any airplay, if you know you play on radio during that period and you never collect that royalty, it's time now to claim it, because after that you will have to accept that you will never receive these royalty. So that's a good time now. And I have to say too that for CMRRA and SOCAN-RR, no digital distribution year has been closed. So they can go back until the beginning of iTunes. So obviously there's the rate was not as high as today for the royalty back in the day. So we see the amount of money growing up year after year, but that money is still available. But I know they're gonna close it someday, because to keep all of these years still available, it become tough to coordinate. So if you have a rush to do something, claim your mechanical rights and choose CMRA or SOCAN-RR, whatever. Both are doing the same thing. They are coordinating the same database. So there's no problem. Maybe the thing I could say that CMRA is only dealing with the publisher. So as a publisher, you will collect 100% of the money, and that will be your responsibility to pay your songwriter, compared to SOCAN-RR that allows letter of direction, saying that you can say SOCAN-RR, I'm claiming 100% of the money, but since you already have the information of the songwriter, because you already pay them as SOCAN, I authorize you for the mechanical rights to pay them directly. Don't send me the entire money. I don't want to pay them after that. So that could be the little difference between CMRA and SOCAN-RR. And the only thing you have to do rush is if you have any airplay in commercial radio, CBC, yes, satellite radio too, it started existing in 2005. So yeah, so still on the satellite radio, you play before 2013, you have to submit your stuff to Right Society, Actua Rax, MRock, or Actua or Artistic before August 1st.
That's a great tip. And we do have a listener question here too to wrap things up. It's a bit of a particular one, but I think this listener is really looking for some help from your expertise. So they're saying, when registering a song with a duo that uses an ampersand instead of the word and on SOCAN, it just shows up as the two names with no ampersand and no word and. Should they contact SOCAN and get them to change it, or does it matter?
The joy of database. So probably SOCAN erased it to make sure, and so you have to understand that sometimes what you see is not maybe the only information that SOCAN has in their database. So maybe they have some other name for you to make sure that depending on how the radio will submit the data. So even if your name was only Audrey, for example, if the radio made a mistake and put Audrey with 2A, even if you did your job, the problem is the radio. So that's SOCAN job to understand that the Audrey with 2A is the same as Audrey with an E and be able to match it. So you maybe don't need to inform SOCAN that they should add an A instead of the symbol. But if you realize that in your statement, you'll never be paid for that track or from your repertoire for that period, now you can inform SOCAN, because maybe the robot didn't figure out that that's the same artist or that's the same track, and it need a manual action to connect both of it. So you don't need to do it first. Wait a little bit, and usually from SOCAN, there's a 9-month distance between the airplay and the payment for the radio, and for the streaming, there's a 1 year. I know it's not distance, but there's a 1 year difference between the stream and the payment. So, and usually they don't close royalty, the distribution year, for 3 months. So you can maybe check 1.5 years if you see that there's really no payment for all of your repertoire or a specific use of your song, because the radio database could be different than the streaming database, and maybe the robot from the radio understand the difference of your name, but not the robot from the streaming database. So at that moment, you can check with SOCAN to make sure that everything has been connected.
Great. Thank you so much. That just about does it for time here. I want to thank you for answering all these questions. It was really, really, really helpful. And I also encourage all the people watching to check out Sebastian's video from Monday. I think it was. That's link is in the chat. You can also find it on Music Calgary's YouTube channel, and also check out all the other talks from this week on this subject, since it is such a heavy one that comes with a lot of different complexities to it. So thank you so much, Sebastian. Is there any kind of parting words?
Have fun. There's money in the music industry.
Just have to look for it sometimes and do the bit of the work to get started there. Hey, so great. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope you have a good rest of your weekend there in Montreal. And thank you everyone else who is watching. We'll see you again here next Saturday for another Q&A. And just a reminder, the Q&A next week is going to start at 11 a.m. Mountain Time instead of 10, so an hour later. And we're going to have 2 guests, so that'll be great. Thank you so much, Sebastian. Thank you, Music Calgary, and we'll see you again. Bye.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.